Moving on to JJ Peterka. It seems to be a weekly segment here on the Sabremetrix podcast. Oh boy, let's just play the clip from Frank Saravelli, and then I have a little fun to have after this. But let's get the clip up first, and we'll go from there.
Get it done, but I don't think 1 year would get it done. But I think if you did a 2 or a 3 year deal, a 3 year deal with all signing bonus, $27 million due within 700 and some days, might not be easy.
Yeah, no,
they can do it. I mean, the owner has the wherewithal.
Yeah.
But do you really want to match it and dig into your own pocket for a player that doesn't want to be there?
So the Sabres
that's what he's up against. Kevin Adams is, well, if I'm really just going to have to go down the offer sheet path, there's teams that have put top end first round picks in this year's Friday's draft on the table already.
Yeah.
So are you just better off taking a top end pick in a player in a draft that you have studied a lot and know? Or do you prefer the fear of the unknown? The Sabres aren't interested in futures. They've told teams, and their target is a right shot defenseman. They're looking for a right shot defenseman. That's what they're in the market for.
And they also might be trading Bowen Byram. So
they are trading Bowen Byram, but the question is, will they get this deal done first?
All right, there's a lot to unpack there. The one thing I'm going to do, sports fans will know what I'm referring to, but if you don't, there is a journalist that covers the NBA that a couple of years ago went viral for a certain take. Why is Frank Saravelli, with his last week at the Daily Faceoff, suddenly putting out stuff, what seems like daily, or we're seeing stuff daily about JJ Peterka, a little bit from Elliot Friedman. But why is it that Frank Saravelli is the one that has all the JJ Peterka information? Quite honestly, I don't know. I just kind of thought this was funny, but it was like, why? Why is this happening? But it does raise an actual point that I wanted to make of, it feels like Alan Walsh is just beating the crap out of the Sabres. And like, obviously, and we'll get to it in the Kevin Adams press conference, but all of the information that's being said right now is not coming from the Sabres. So it's coming from the other camp. Well, what do you make of everything here?
I think Alan Walsh is definitely one of the tougher agents in the NHL. And I think he's doing kind of what every agent wants to do. He's a little bit more aggressive with it. But I think if you're an NHL agent right now, you have to be looking at guys like Sam Reinhart winning back-to-back cups in Florida. You have to be looking at Jack Eichel winning a cup in Vegas. You have to look at O'Reilly winning a cup in St. Louis. You have to think, I don't want my client in Buffalo. Like, I want my client elsewhere. I want my client somewhere that could win championships. I want my client somewhere that could finish top 5 in awards. I want somewhere my client could go and, earn a ton of money and earn a lot of money in that next contract too. So I think the Sabres have definitely found themselves in a tough situation with Alan Walsh because he's a tough agent. And, his portfolio of NHL players, Peterka is near the top in terms of talent with those guys, at least in terms of the players he has left. So I could easily see him pushing hard for JJ Peterka to play elsewhere. And it seems like that's what he's trying to do because, kind of playing into this offer sheet thing, I think that's kind of just a ploy to pressure the Sabres into trading him out of fear that they could get an offer sheet like Frank Saravelli brought up, where it's a lot of bonus money, a lot of money up front, and Sabres just don't do those types of contracts because they're a cheap team. So I think he's just trying to build up that fear that we could put you in a tough situation financially if you don't move Peterka before offer sheet season.
Yeah, absolutely. Really just knowing the Sabres are kind of in a vulnerable situation and taking advantage of that, quite frankly. I wanted to pull this up because you did mention it. It's a little tough for people to see. Yeah, that's actually really not going to be too helpful for people. So I'll pull it off. But like you said, Alan Walsh, Huberdeau is one of the guys that he represents. Marc-Andre Fleury, obviously, we all know what happened when it comes to Vegas and that. Jonathan Drouin, Pacioretty, but it really is it's pretty much just Huberdeau, Perron, David
They're all
Yurchek.
old guys though. Like the
Yeah,
young guys, it's just
Nick
really
DeSimone.
Peterka.
So like, yeah, Peterka's the youngest and probably best player that he has under his watch. So this isn't necessarily surprising that Alan Walsh is kind of making it difficult for the Sabres. So I don't know. I mean, it very much seems like JJ Peterka wants out. I don't really want to hear anything else because it hasn't been refuted on the other side. And again, we will get to the Kevin Adams comments and everything like that. So also wanted to bring up the Bowen Byram mention that was at the end of that clip as well, where like he is getting traded. He is getting traded. Do you think that decreases Bowen Byram's trade value? Again, he is a defenseman and a relatively, depending on who you ask, a high octane defenseman that some teams, teams obviously overvalue defensemen from what people assume. I'm thinking of Rasmus Ristolainen when I say that because we all assumed like he's not going to get that much. Next thing you know, there's a first round pick coming back for him. What do you think about the Bowen Byram situation? And who do you think maybe gets traded first?
It's going to be interesting because I do think if Peterka's move, there would be pressure to move him first because I think Byram's a guy you could kind of ride into this offseason. But I do think Byram, he'll have value. Like there's not many young defensemen that put up his point totals that have his draft pedigree that are going to be readily available this offseason. And there's a lot of teams around the NHL with like a dismal defense. With really nobody that could step in those power play 1 minutes, like no one that could produce points on the back end. Like there's 32 teams in the NHL now. One of those teams is going to have to think they could use him as a number one defenseman. So I do think there is some value there. And I do think it's important for the Sabres to get the best deal they can with moving Byram because I think he's a piece that's kind of redundant for them right now. He's a piece who played well with Dahlin, but last year everyone played well with Dahlin. So I think he's really not that valuable to the Sabres. So if they could get a great asset for him, I think that would be a huge positive move for Buffalo.
Yeah, I definitely think there's still value with Byram, but being an RFA and the assumption that he is already leaving, it's a little worrisome. So obviously there's going to be some action on him this week. I'd be surprised if he isn't traded by, I don't know, maybe the end of the draft. It could happen, but we'll see. I think the Sabres are really going to try to stick out for the best value that they can get for him, and they've been adamant that they're trying to get NHL players, but we'll see what actually happens. Maybe they have to end up taking another first round pick for this year or whatever it may be. So we'll see what assets are coming back in the Bowen Byram trade.